Hello, welcome to Yoga with Rach. I'm Rach, thank you very much for joining me, whether you're completely new to this channel or if you've been here for a while, thank you for letting me be part of your yoga journey. So, if you've been attending classes at the studio, the last couple of weeks we've been chatting about working with Vinyasas with the beginners class. So traditionally, Vinyasa is the word that we've used to describe how we connect to flow in a sun salutation when we move through our plank, our chaturanga, that lowering down, either all the way to the mat and lifting into cobra, or finding our chaturanga hover, lifting into upward dog and moving into downward dog to finish our flow or our sequence. So if you're going to a class, maybe more traditionally an Ashtanga class or even some Vinyasa classes, and they say move through a Vinyasa, that traditionally is, or what we typically are meaning is moving into plank, lowering down, finding your back bend of cobra pose or upward dog and moving up into downward dog. But sometimes we don't want to work with a Vinyasa, we're not quite sure how to move with a Vinyasa or how is best for us to move with a Vinyasa. Especially if you're in a busy class, it can be quite challenging to sometimes break this down if you're in, say, a mixed class. So this is a little video that I promised to put out there for my beginners, so thank you very much if you do come to classes and if you're having a little go with this at home, or if you're completely new to this and want to know how to modify your Vinyasa, your connecting Vinyasa practice. So what I mean by that movement, so we might have had a little flow, we were in our downward facing dog, and by working with a Vinyasa, we're moving into plank. We could be finding our chaturanga hover, moving into upward dog and downward dog. But we might be in downward dog and we'd be offered to work with a Vinyasa. So we could move into plank and back up into downward facing dog. So really, really simple, moving into plank. But from there we don't work with the chaturanga, we lose out on the back bend, but for some of us that's perfectly fine, we're not back benders, we might have stuff going on in the back anyway. So we move back on up into downward dog and continue with the flow or the sequence or the class from here. Or we move into plank, this one particularly for my pregnant students. From our plank we lower the knees and we bring the knees underneath the hips, and from here we're suddenly in tabletop and we can have a few rounds of cat cows. And then once you hear the teacher say go into downward dog, or maybe you're just aware that everyone else is now in downward dog in the class, we can lift up into our downward dog. Or you want to move through the Vinyasa, but plank, especially that chaturanga, is just not in your sequence yet or in your body yet. So from your plank, lower the knees, but keep the knees behind the hips. You're in half plank. So notice the difference, half plank or tabletop. So tabletop, the knees underneath the hips. In half plank, you let the knees drop down from where they were hovering in plank. And we bend the elbows towards the hips and we lower all the way down to the mat. We untuck the toes, just enjoy a nice little baby cobra. Releasing, lifting back up into a half plank and back into downward dog. Or we might want to work with the full plank, but we haven't got the chaturanga hover yet. So we keep the full plank, we lower all the way down. We lift into cobra. If it's accessible, maybe from cobra, we push through the hands, roll the shoulders away and lift into upward dog to roll over the toes into downward facing dog. And have a little pause. So I just wanted to offer this if you've been working with Vinyasas, in case you're feeling a little bit of frustration in this practice and you're not there yet, how can you slowly get there? So take yourself back wherever you're at in your practice, a beginner or advanced, or maybe you're pregnant and you're having to modify your practice, maybe you've had a wrist injury and we can't quite lower down yet, maybe you've got something going on in the shoulders or your back. Listen to your body. So just because something is a tradition it's done a certain way doesn't mean that we have to stick with it. If we've had something go on that we need to be mindful of, injuries or pregnancy, we need to modify our practice, or we're just not there yet, we're still beginners, we're building up that strength in the body, then listen to your body, be mindful of what's going on, and know that you've got these few different variations to modify your practice so you can still enjoy moving on the mat, but you enjoy it more because it feels right for your body rather than having to do what we expect ourselves to do straight away, especially as beginners. So work with modifying, move from downward dog into plank and go straight back up into downward dog, move from downward dog into plank and move into tabletop for cat curls, or from plank, work with half plank, slowly lower down, build that strength in the arms, stay nice and low in your cobras, or in time it might feel comfortable or accessible from full plank, lower all the way down, start to lift into a deeper cobra to lift up into upward dog, and in time maybe that full vinyasa will be part of your practice. So thank you very much for joining me today. Let me know what you think of this practice in the comments below. Let me know which one you prefer to use for your modified vinyasa, whether that's for a general flow through one of my videos or with a teacher or in a class, or even for your sun salutations. This can be modified through those. If you haven't subscribed, please do click the button here, and I'll just pop a link here and here for my guided sun salutations, which use that vinyasa when we move from plank and all the way back up into downward dog, and now you know that you can modify it for what feels right for you. If you haven't already, do give this a thumbs up if you liked the video. Do let me know how you got in the comments below, and I shall see you next week. Thank you very much, and namaste.